Kumlan and Ablat Gemara. We are up to Daf Nun Zayin Amud Aleph. We are talking about the Hazoyas, the spring. Says the Gemara Tanda about 8-9 lines from the top of the page. We learned that the system of how you sprinkle the blood of the bull inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, 1 above and 7 below, directly a direct line beneath it. And then you do the same thing with the blood of the goat. And then we said we go into the Heichel and into the other room, and you do it against the parech, the curtain. So Tony, we learned kishehu maze eine maze ala pareches el kenega pareches. Just like by the Kodesh HaKadoshim, you don't sprinkle directly on top of the kapyrus; it's on the floor in front of it. Same too is when you're in the Heichel, the big room, the base of Mikdash. You don't spray directly onto the curtain; it lands on the ground right before it. Amar Ablo Yesi, I disagree. Ablo Yesi went with Rav Shimon Yochai in Gemara Meila. We had the story about this king who made a decree against the Eden, and they went there and they found that this woman had a dibuk inside her, and she was going crazy. And they told the demon to go away from her. And the king rewarded them by allowing them to go into the treasury and take whatever they want. And basically, when they went in, they searched for that document, that decree against the Eden, and they ripped it up. But while he was there, Abba said, Anita Yisir, I saw Beremi. I actually saw in Rome, I saw there a number of Kalim in the base of Mikdash. He saw over there was the Parechis, there was the table and other things as well, the menorah in the base of Mikdash. I saw that on the curtain there was drops of blood, shopar for the bull, the soy, and the goat, Yom Kippurim. And you could tell one was redder than the other. So he said, you say that it didn't land on the curtain. Meferish did. I saw my own eyes. So they said to him, how do you know that was the blood of Yom Kippur? The Dilma, perhaps it was the blood for something else. Perhaps it's the Pad Helam Dovish al Tzibur. Maybe it was a blood that the entire community commits an Aveda based on the advice of the Bezdin. You bring one bull. And you also sprayed that in front of the curtain. Maybe that's what it was. The Seidi Avodah Zarah, or the God of Avodah Zarah, says the Gemara. So he says, no, the Chazal Davidic Hasidim. When it comes to those, we're not particular how you sprinkle the blood. But when it comes to Yom Kippur, it's a straight line, matzlef. It was a straight line, a vertical line. And I saw there was a straight vertical line. Clearly it was Yom Kippur. But Tananam, we also learned the same argument regarding Par, Helem, Dover, Shal Tzibur, Kihai Gavna. We learned exactly the same thing regarding the blood of sprinkling of the Par, Helem, Dover, Shal Tzibur. Kishu Maza, when you sprinkle it, Lo Yinoigim Beprezen, touch a Pareiches, Vimnogu, Nogu, touched. But again he argues, I saw, no, you're telling me that you shouldn't land on the curtain. But I saw, I also noticed there was blood there from the bull of the Par Helam. And Seidi Avodah Zarah, goes to Avodah Zarah. So it said to him, how knows that? Maybe it was in Kippur, you just said before. The Par Helam, you know. So he said, because I also saw blood, David Shalai it was not done in the proper order. So therefore he argues on both things. And the other ones say you can't really make a proof of it. Maybe it was just a mistake. They didn't do it properly. Tosfos has a whole discussion. Which base of Mikdash are we talking about? Because if we're talking about a Pad, Helam, Dovish, or Tzibur, that took place only in the first base of Mikdash. That did not take place in the second base of Mikdash at all, the Pad, Helam, Dovish, or Tzibur. It says in the Gemara Megillah, we'll learn that the difference between a kohen that was anointed with oil or a kohen in the second base of Mikdash that had the 8 begodim was only whether you bring a par, if a kohen Mashiach and brings the par Helm Dovish Tzibur, but a kohen of 8 clothes does not bring it. In other words, the second base of Mikdash didn't have par Dovish Tzibur. So we're talking about the first base of Mikdash. What curtain are we talking about? And even more interesting is, if we're talking about the first base of Mikdash, that means that in Rome, not only do they have the furniture of the second base of Mikdash, they actually have some of the items of the first base of Mikdash, including the parechas of the first base of Mikdash. How do they get to Rome? And which is interesting. So Taisa gives 2 answers. One answer is Taka is talking about the first base of Mikdash, and the curtain wasn't not the curtain that divided the Kodesh HaKadoshim and the curtain in front of one of the rooms. Or Nari says no, it's talking about the second base of Mikdash. And the part when the Gemara makes a distinction between the kohen who was anointed by the oil or the kohen who just wears a full set of clothing, the difference would be, somebody can please mute themselves. Moshe, you're on too. Can you mute yourself on the other one? Okay, thank you. And what do you call it? He's talking about if a Kohen Gadol himself made a mistake, has to bring a special kind of carbon. That didn't apply. So, anyways, there's an interesting argument. Takes the first, second base of English, and according to the first answer, takes the first base of English. They had the Rome in the Vatican. They have the furniture of the first base of English as well. Says he much further. Okay, now this is the order of how things were done. They shechted. The Kohen Gadol would shecht the par, his bull, because remember he had to be first atoned clean before he can atone for everybody else. So he shechted his par. They took the blood and they had a Kohen stirring it and they brought it outside. And then he took, and then he went ahead and he did the Tyrus. Then he took the blood of the par and he took the blood of the par, went inside and did the sprinkling of the par. Then he went outside. He shechted. He put the blood of the par down in the heichel, and then he went outside Nazareth. He shechted the goat. So he shechted the goat after he sprinkled the blood of the par. He shechted the goat. He then took the blood of the goat and brought it into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. And then he went outside, and we learned that he mixed the two bloods together. We'll come back to in a minute. Says the Gemara. So what happened in the following case? What about this? What happens if the blood of the bull and the blood of the goat got mixed up before you put it all? Rashi seems to be learning before in between the Kodesh HaKadoshim, before you went ahead and you sprinkled the blood of the par, you put down the blood of the goat, and they both got mixed up. Tesis and most of Shai disagree. They say no. In the blood of the par in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, you had to spray it before even you shechted the goat. How could it even be possible? So Rashi obviously holds that if you shechted, if you shechted the goat first, it's not ma'akev. It's not the protocol, but it's not the end of the world. So they learned, we're talking about the second spring out in the heichel. Anyway, what happened was the blood got mixed up into the par and the soya. What do you do? Says the Gemara, and it's Arba, he mixed up the blood. Amar says, Rabba, noisens. What do you do now? You don't know which one is which. You just do once. You spray once above and 7 below. And you have in mind both. Because the blood has in it, some of it is par, some of it is seir. So we're going to say that what you sprinkle has in it both, and they're both therefore yaitze, because there's no sheer amount. How much has to be of the goat? How much of the bull? So you yaitze both at the same time. Amru kamed Rabbi Yirmiyah. They told Rabbi Yirmiyah what Rabbi said. Amar, he said, Bavloi tipshoy. Famous saying that is that the Rabbi loves to say. These foolish Babylonians. He said, these foolish Babylonians, because they live in a dark land, because they live in a dark land, they said over halachas that are dark, because the bubble was a very low-lying land. So therefore, because they live in a dark land, they say foolish things. And why is that? If you do that, then you spray the one, you have in mind both. It means that you sprayed the one from the goat before you sprayed the 7 of the bull. And the pasuk says you have to first do all the activities of the bull before you get to the goat. Because says only when you complete the sprinkling of the blood of the bull, then you move on to the goat. So first you have to finish the blood of the par. So kalei damapar, first finish the blood of the par, and then you move over to the blood of the goat. And the way you're doing it is they're both happening at the same time. Elam Rabbi Yirmiyah says, what do you do? First you put one on top. Please, if someone can mute themselves. You put one on top, vishav and 7 below the shem hapar, and have in mind the bull. Even though you have blood of the goat there, have in mind the bull. Then you put one on top of 7 below and have in mind the goat. Now, Rava didn't want to say that because he holds mitzvahs don't need kavanah. And therefore, he felt that even though if you sprayed, even though you had in mind only the bull when you sprayed, automatically the goat will be yaitz as well. And if the goat automatically will be yaitz as well, what did you help? And that's why. But the Yirmiyah said no. He holds that mitzvahs do need kavanah, and because mitzvahs need kavanah, you have in mind the bull. You're not yaitz of the goat. And that's why you have in mind the bull, finish the bull, and then you move on to the goat. That's what it's a simple pshat over here in the Gemara. You can also argue that even if you hold mitzvahs don't need kavana, the question is when you have kavana for the bull, is it as if you're saying clearly, but I don't want it to be the goat? So even if you hold mitzvahs don't need kavana, according to many, if you have a contrary kavana, you say I don't want it to work, then you eliminate it. So that what do you call it? Rava felt that if you're what do you call it? If you're going to sprinkle for the bull, if you don't have in mind the goat automatically there's a problem. That's why he says have in mind both. But Yirmiyah says no. When you don't have in mind the bulls, as if you're negating the goat, and therefore you can separate the two, even though physically they're mixed up together. Says the Gemara, what about this arvul damim? What happened? You sprayed the blood on top for the par, and now you're about to move to the bottom 7, and now they got mixed up. So you have 7 for the par, and you have 1 and 7 for the goat. What happens then? So Rav Papa made Rav. So Rav Papa thought before, what should you do? The main to say, Nois and Shevel the Mata Shem Par Shem Seir. So like Rav said, follow the same footstep. The problem is Chavana. So do the 7 below and have in mind the goat as well. And then then just do 1 more for this ear above. And look what Rav said here. Rav bought into Rav Yirmiyah's narrative. Amalei Rav. Ad hashta korilon tipshoy. Till now they called us fools. But you just said tipshoy did tipshoy. You're a fool amongst fools. That's something special. And why was Rabbi bought into what Yirmiyah said? They told us that we were wrong, and you continued on the same path that I started, which I was wrong. Why? What's wrong? Because you have matter the seir, the seir. He's even worse. By you spraying the 7 first, and you have in mind the goat as well, comes out by the goat, the 7 sprays came before the single one above. There's a beautiful ritva over here that brings from a tshuva of the Rambam, and I couldn't find the tshuva of the Rambam, but the ritva explains that the Rambam actually took it literally that that Rabbi Yirmiyah was right. It wasn't just being just semantics or being derogatory, that he was right. That in Bavel, in the times of Rabba and Rabbi Yosef and Rabba and Abaya, he said it was Gzeira Shmodos. It was a terrible time in history in Bavel, and there's all kinds of decrees that people had to convert to whatever religion it was. Made it very difficult to learn. So therefore, it was a dark place. And Yirmiyah was right. But later on, in the Bible, the times of Ashi, says the Rambam, then times were settled, were peaceful. There was no better place of learning in Bavel, as the Gemara says in Gittin Daf the test. But Moshe Rebbe, at Moshe of Ashi, we didn't find Torah v'Gdula b'Makom Echad, and it was peaceful. So he bought into that and saying that. But we learned the Gemara, and I just can't remember where it is, but we had it either in Eidim or Psachim, where they were stuck on something, and Rav Yirmiyah said, "Let's ask the Babylonians who know how to resolve these kind of difficult questions. Let's see what they have to say." It was somewhere in Pesach, if I remember correctly, in the second half, which means Rav Yirmiyah didn't really mean what he said. He was just, making fun or whatever it was. But and yet, whenever the Gemara wants to say what's considered real learning is Havaya. We had Gemara, so we'll have a Gemara Sukkah Chester is Havaya da Abaye v'Rava. That they're held up as a paradigm what real learning is. Yet the way that Rambam learns over here is that their learning was actually dark because they had so many questions and because of the trouble that they had. The greatest form that we had were written dafka in times when the Eden really suffered. The Shach wrote one of his Perushim on Yeridea. He wrote while he was running away from the Cossacks. Says the Gemara further. Ella Amar Rava says, Rava, what do you do? The blood got mixed up after you sprayed 1. Is nice and shevel lamata l'shepar. He puts 7. He sprinkles 7 downwards, and he has in mind the par. Then the he does 1 above and 7 below the shame say for the goat. Along the way Rabbi Yirmiyah said before. What about these advul koises bekoises? What about not that the blood physically, the blood remains separate, but there were 2 cups, and you don't remember which one is the bulls and which one is the goats. What happens in this case here? And again, Taisus and Moses trying to say this. We're talking about the blood for the in the heichel, not the blood in the kodesh kodashim, because they say it's impossible to still have blood left and have the blood of the goat, because you had to shech the goat after you sprayed the blood of the bull. So what happens? The cups got mixed up with each other. Do is 3 times. So what you do is The problem here is you can't have in mind the bull when in fact the blood, what you're holding in your hand, the blood of the goat. So this is what you do. You take the first thing of blood and you do one on top and 7 below, and then you do the second thing again, one on top of 7 below, and then you do a third time. And then manashach. If the worst case scenario is the first utensil you picked up was the blood of the goat, so it doesn't count. So the second one would have been the blood of the bull, and then you go back to the first one, now it's the blood of the goat. So you got it right. So that's the worst case scenario, which means you must have had in mind each time that, if it's this, it's this, if it's that, it's that.
I wonder what words the Kohen Gadol was saying, because he had to say something at the time.
He just thought that if this blood is the blood of a goat, then it's nothing, and if the blood is the blood of a bull, then this should be Yaitse for the blood of a bull.
For himself and his family.
Yeah.
Well, you're saying that this wasn't Yom Kippur necessarily. This was other korbanos.
No. We're talking about here. This is definitely Yom Kippur we're talking about now. The blood of the bull, the blood of the goat. When we're talking about other korbanos, we're talking about Rabbi Loza, when he was saying that he saw in the in Rome on the Parechis.
So you can still have not knowing which cup is which cup on Yom Kippur.
Yeah, and according to Moses Shani, we're talking about outside. That's possible. They mixed it up. But according to Rashi, even on the inside, which means you shechted the goat the wrong time. You shechted the goat before you sprinkled the blood of the bull. So therefore now you have 2 cups, even though that's not how it should be done. But if you yaitz it, if you did, Taisus and other Shem say it says chukah. Everything on Yom Kippur says chukah. That means it has to be a certain way, and you cannot, in any way deviate from that. But Rashi obviously holds that chukah doesn't refer to everything. Saying about it further. What about it mixes damim this arvuloi? Let's say, what do you call it? Let's say you have 2 different bowls over there, and you poured from both of them into a third one, and now in each of these 2 you have a little bit left, but you don't know what's what. So this what do you call it? Mixes damim this arvuloi, mixes damim this arvuloi. So some of the blood was mixed up. Right in the bowl, and some of that were not mixed up in a bowl. So what happens in this case over here? Right, so you have 3 bowls. You have 1 and 2. 1 is a bull and 2 is a goat, and then 1 and 2 you mix them into a third bowl, and then the 1 and 2 still has blood in it, and the third bowl now is a mixture of both. Okay, so what do you do then? So what it says, Pshita, there's no question. What's the shaila? Ki yoyiv v'vadan yoyiv. Since you have still 2 bowls, 1 bowl definitely bull and 1 bowl definitely goat, you use that blood to sprinkle. So what's our shaila? Our shaila is, how do we treat the third one? Mino hanach sherayim habit. Do we treat the third cup, even though it's mixed, and you cannot use it to sprinkle, but because it's the residual of either the bull or the goat, or both of them now, therefore it's considered residual, sherayim, uli yisoid ozli, and therefore when you pour it down, and you pour it down by the yisoid, on the base of the mizbech, which is what you do with the shirayim of any blood of a carbon that you sprinkle. Do we say no, this is like junk? The chuyin have it. They'll be rejected because you cannot spray for that third cup because it's a mixture of bull and goat, and therefore maybe the chuyin have it. And therefore you pour down into that creek, which ends up in Nachal Kidron and all the other refuse from the Beis Hamikdash, and it's gone. It's not considered shirayim anymore. Says the Gemara. Papa says, I'll tell you what I think. Even when it holds that 1 cup, which was sunsi, makes the other cup leftovers, which means the other cup goes into the. We're talking about in a second about a carbon that you poured into 4 different cups, and if you use only 1 cup, what happens to the other 3 cups? You didn't even need. Is it shirayim or is it rejected? Even the one who says that that other 3 cups are considered shirayim. Each one of them had a potential to be, you have 4 cups, and you do 4 corners by the chatzas. Each one had a potential to be the cup to be used. So therefore, they're considered still valid blood, and you pour them down the yisai, the base. Here, this mixer, you could use it if you wanted to. Therefore, it's been rejected. You cannot use it. And it's chavrusa. Papa, I hold just the opposite. Adrabah. Even the one who says that the other cups are considered rejected, here it might be different. That's what I'm talking about. If you had 4 cups, you could have used all the 3 cups and you deliberately didn't use it, as if you personally rejected them. That's why they say that you tossed them out into the Amma. Here you didn't do it deliberately. By mistake, now they both fell and they got mixed up into 1 cup. Loi, so you didn't really reject it. Maybe everyone holds that it's considered the shiraim, and it goes into the Yisod. What's this argument they're talking about? The Tanya, we learned, it says in the pasuk, the one pasuk says, when it comes to the Kamachatas, it says, right, the Kohen takes the blood from the chat with his finger, and he puts it on all four corners of his bech, and says, as domoi, and its blood, in singular, yishbech el yisoid, its blood should be poured down the base, singular, as if only from one cup. But later on, it says in the other pasuk, it says he takes the Kohen takes with his finger and he sprinkles it everywhere, and then it says, if there's cold dama, all the blood sounds like all four cups. If he's put before yishpat, you pour down the yisayid. So which one is it? One pasuk says singular, one pasuk says all of them. So minayin lechatos. So this time it said, how do you know a chatos? Shekibel dam abakaisis. Yilchatchila divided into four cups. The nosim is achas and achas. That from each cup you put in a different corner, and each cup has residual blood. All of the remnants of each one of the four cups gets poured down the base. It says, in all the blood, you should pour down to Yisayid. Fine. I would have thought, what happens after then you have four cups, but I only use one to spray in all four corners. How do you know if you have one cup and the other three you didn't use at all? What happens to them? I would have thought the same thing. It's considered shirayim, and you should pour it down the base. Only its cup. In other words, if you only use one cup and you pour it into four, the cup you use, whatever is left over there, goes down the Yisai. But the other three you haven't used at all, they've been rejected. They don't go to Yisai, they go to the Amma. Is who nishbach li Yisai? The hey nishbach l'Amma, the one cup you use, that gets poured down the base. And all the other ones get thrown out with the refuse. Rabbi Elazar but Rabbi Shimon says, I disagree. How do you know the chata that you received before and you gave all four from one cup? How do I know that the remaining three cups also go down the Yisrael? They all get poured down the Yisrael. It says clearly in the pasuk, kol dama, all the blood. As long as it came from the animal, even though you had it split in four cups and you only use one cup, the other three are considered shirayim, and they go down the Yisrael. So what's Rabbi Elazar but Rabbi Shimon going to do with the pasuk? As domoi sounds singular. Haksiv as domoi yishbach. Amar Abashi lemute. He's talking about if there was any shirayim left over, shebetzavar behema. Any shirayim left over in the neck of the behema, that blood and left over there that didn't go into the cup because it never went into the cup. That does not go down the yesod. That goes into the amma. So therefore, that's the machlekes here as well. If you have two cups, one bull and one goat, and then you have a third cup, and they both got mixed together. How do you deal with that cup? Is it shirayim or is it rejected? Machlek is Papa and Rabbi Chuna Bar Yeshua. Doesn't go further. Then the Mishnah says they mixed the dam hapar. What they did was they then took, after they did the kodesh gadashim, they sprayed all the sprays. Then they went into the kodesh. They sprayed everything in front of the curtain. Then they mixed the two bloods together. They poured the bull into the goat, mixed it, and then they took the goat and the bull blood, which is all mixed together, and poured it back into the empty cup, into the empty plate, an empty bowl that was emptied from the bowl, and they do it again, and we'll soon see why, to stir it better. Mix the two together. We learned, like court opinion, now they spray a third time. After you did the kodesh, after you did the kodesh, you spray one more time on the mizbech, Hazav, on the little mizbeach, but only one amma by one amma inside the base of Mikdash. So there's an argument: do you mix the bloods together when you sprinkle it this time, or you spray first the bull and then you spray the goat? Says the Gemara, Yitma is actually machlekes. One of them says Arvin, you mix the two bloods together and then you pour it on the mizbeach Hazav. The Chadam, one of them says that Ema Arvin, and you keep them separate and you spray each one separate, the bull separate and the goat separate. To Stein, let us conclude that Rabbi Yoshi is the one generally who likes to combine things together. Who the Amma Ma'arvin, he holds that you always combine things together, even the Torah doesn't really spell it out. The Amma Afagad Leksiv Yachdav, command Leksiv Yachdav Dami. That even though it doesn't say Yachdav, it says a pasuk that a person that curses out his father and his mother, and the terrible punishment. So from the fact that it says and his mother sounds like only if he curses both parents at the same time. But what about if he only curses his father or he only curses his mother? How do you know that you get punished? Because it says the pasuk, Aviv kilel, ima kilel. Had it not said in the end of the pasuk, Aviv kilel, ima kilel, I would have combined the two. If you curse as Aviv as imay, they have to curse both of them out at the same time. So Rabbi Yeshua has a tendency to combine everything unless the Torah highlights that it should be separated. Rabbi Yeshua disagrees because he says when it says as Aviv as imay, we wouldn't combine at all unless the Torah would have added the word Yachdav. Without adding the word Yachdav, we just generally say that two separate things. So according to Rabbi Yeshua, because he generally likes to combine anything, same thing over here. That when it says that Medam Hapar or Medam Hasoyer, Rabbi Yeshua learns together, mix them together. And Rabbi Yeshua says, no, Dam Hapar is separate and Dam Hasoyer is separate. Says the Gemara. So we thought that's the same machlek as you have by cursing your parents is over here as well. To Stein, Rabbi Yeshua, he says, even if the Torah doesn't say the word Yachdav together, we automatically combine them because it says and, the conjunctive and, therefore we would automatically say that they combine together. Maybe the two arguments are totally unrelated. I can argue it's Rabbi Yeshua. I can say Rabbi Yeshua also agrees when it comes to Mizbeach Hazav that you mix the blood of the bull and the blood of the goat to put them together. It doesn't say Yachdav. Shiny Hocha here is different. It says Achas. It says in the pasuk that you should spray Achas. It says the Chiper Aaron al Kanoisav Achas Bashana. So Achas Bashana means 1 day a year. But take the Achas, put a comma afterwards, as if to say the Chiper Aaron al Kanoisav Achas. They should be together. And Rabbi Yeshua said, well, Achas is no different than Yachdav, and telling you have to mix together the blood of the bull and the blood of the goat. Says Gemara, Tanya, we learned the Braisa, the Loikish Shenuyin, this answer that you just gave right now, that perhaps Rabbi Yeshua agrees that you mix the blood of the bull and the goat together. Actually, the Braisa is not like that. And we learned the Braisa the way we learned it initially, because only Rabbi Yeshua says you mix the two bloods together. What's the story? It says, V'lokach medam hapar umedam hasoyer. It says in the passage, you take the blood from the par and you take the blood from the soyer. So he says, Shiemu Ravin, they should be mixed up together. They should be mixed up together. David Rabbi Yeshua, because it says and they should be mixed together. However, Rabbi Yeshua says Mazeh b'fnei atzmai u'mazeh b'fnei atzmai. Rabbi Yeshua says no, that the blood of the bull and the blood of the goat are totally separate. Just because it says and doesn't mean put them together. Rabbi Yeshua said to him, what do you mean separate? It says achas. It says kanois of achas. Right, achas b'shalom, but you make a comma afterward achas to say achas. They should be together. Even you should agree with me. They should be together. It says middam umidam hapar umidam hasoyer. It says already from the blood of the bull, from the blood of the goat, and I learned when it says and it doesn't mean together, it means from both of them, but separately, and therefore you do each one separately. I will do the achas. Why say achas? We already know that it's only in Yom Kippur. So what do you have to say? The Torah to say achas. So we say achas. We'll say achas v'lo yishtayim midam hasoyer. That you only do one and you don't do two. You would have thought that on the Mizbeach Hazav that you should do the procedure twice. So he tells you, no, you only do it once. From the blood of the goat, you only do once. B'dam hapar achad l'shtayim. Achad l'shtayim b'dam hapar. Achad l'shtayim b'dam hasoyer. One and not two from the dam hapar, and one and not two from the dam of the soyer. And why would you think that you need two? So something to talk about already. Why would you think that you need to if they achas that you only do one? So the more Tanya look on the Braisa. The lokach midam hapar umidam hasoyer. It says the pasuk should bring the two together. They should be mixed up together again, like Rabbi Yeshua. Mixed together, so maybe you sprinkle the blood of the bull on its own, the blood of the goat on its own, like Rabbi Yeshua says. It says achas together. And this Tam Braisa lives like Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua doesn't agree. Rabbi Yeshua holds that you do the bull separately and the goat separately. And that ends the sugi over here. And we'll continue.